It's often believed that science has no need for faith. The fascinating thing is that science itself is based upon faith assumptions. Many of the ways that science works dependent upon the making of these assumptions, these presuppositions. Let me give you some examples. First of all, a key faith assumption of science is uniformity in nature. Scientists automatically presuppose that if they go to another planet, that the physics on that planet will be the same as the physics here. Much of the data they collect through telescopes is based upon that assumption, assuming that conditions work the same there as here. Also, historical sciences, when you look at the past, they assume that things in the past function in terms of the physical laws the same way that they do today. Another assumption of science, another article of faith of science, is the continuity of cause and effect. That whenever you see an effect, you can assume that it had a cause. Philosophy has questioned that, David Hume and others, about causality, but we automatically assume that in science. So when you see a particular effect, you can know its cause. Another faith assumption of science is discoverable order in nature. First of all, that nature is ordered, and second of all, we can discover it. We have the ability to find out what the order is. It's possible that it may have been otherwise, but we assume as scientists that not only is it there, but we can find it. And the last faith assumption of science is beautiful simplicity in nature. This is one that's really strange. The others fit into sort of the working aspects of modern science, but beautiful simplicity is more of an aesthetic quality, that whenever we discover the way the world really is, it will be beautiful. I remember seeing an interview with a scientist one time, and they asked him about this particular conclusion, and he said that it had an aesthetic flaw, and the interviewer just passed on to the next question. He didn't ask him about the aesthetic flaw, or what it is. Basically what the scientist was saying when he said that it has an aesthetic flaw, it meant that that particular theory wasn't pretty enough. It wasn't beautiful enough, and that shows the underlying assumption that the correct view will be the most beautiful, the most simple. You may have heard of Occam's razor. It also encapsulates that we'll consider the most simple explanation as the most correct, the most truthful. And so there's a belief that whenever we finally get to the bottom of the way the universe is, we'll find beauty. And, Einstein spent many, many years trying to relate the relationship between matter and energy, and when he finally got all of his equations accomplished, he came up with a very, very beautiful equation, one that we all know, E equal mc squared. When I was at the university, I could walk down the hall in the physics department, and I would look into their offices, and on the wall they would have framed copies of this equation, E equal mc squared. It was something they decorated their offices with because of its beauty. That essentially matter is energy, and energy is matter. And so each of these faith assumptions, uniformity in nature, continuity of cause and effect, discoverable order in nature, beautiful simplicity in nature, they make sense if we have a creator God who is uniform, who is faithful, and creates that faithfulness throughout time and space. It makes sense if we have a God who connects everything in continuity of cause and effect, not just in the natural world, but in the middle world also, that the words I'm saying mean the same thing to me as they mean to you, that when I talk about the color blue or red, we have the same experience in our mind of what that is. That kind of continuity that exists throughout the universe and allows communication is something that's reasonable if we have a God, a self-revelatory God who wants to reveal himself and allow us to reveal ourselves. Discoverable order in nature. If we have a God who's ordered, then he's going to create an ordered world. And if we're created in his image, we will be able to discover what he has done. As Johannes Kepler wrote in his prayers, I am thinking God's thoughts after him. Because we are created in his image, we can understand God's thoughts. The beautiful simplicity in nature is understandable if God is beautiful and he is the author of beauty, if he is the original artist. However, if you believe there isn't a God and all of this just happened by chance, why in the world would you assume uniformity? Chance is the opposite of uniformity. Why would you consider continuity? Because chance is the opposite of continuity. Why would you just assume that something is ordered if it was created by chance, by randomness? Because randomness is directly and diametrically opposed to order. And why would you consider something thrown together by random chance as having any sense of simplicity and beauty? Science developed within the philosophy of Christian theism, and it's quite possible that it would not have developed in any other instance because of the necessity for these basic faith assumptions to allow the machinery of science to work.